Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. Our guest today has been buying real estate since 2016 and owns 8 single-family homes and a multifamily property. He's an expert in long-distance real estate and debt and leverage strategy. Alex Felice joins us today. Alex, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Seth, so good to be here. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, really looking forward to this. So let's kick things off by talking about your real estate goals. Where do you want to go with real estate?
Yeah, so when I first started, I had the same goal as I think a lot of people had, which is create financial freedom, get out of a job I hated. And I could do that. And what I ended up doing, I didn't realize it till later, is I set my goals as low as I could to reach the minimum opportunity of freedom, which, and I don't think this is an uncommon goal, which was 10 houses in 10 years. And so I hit 8 houses in 3 years. And so when you say, what are my goals? What I'll tell you is they're constantly changing, because the more I do, the more I realize I'm underappreciating my talents.
Yeah.
So my original goal was 10 in 10 years. I hit 8 in 3 years. On the 3rd year, I just bought a 24-unit multifamily. My goal now is I'm going to try to buy 2 or 3 more big multifamilies, and then I'm going to go try maybe something completely different just to see if I can.
Nice. And you know what? It's so common that people set goals and then they blow past them in no time. That's a pretty
good problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
The alternative is you don't set goals at all, which is what most people really do. They don't really set goals at all. So undercutting yourself is not the worst problem at all to have. And can always correct. You know, I wanted to buy 3 single family homes this year and a multifamily, and within 6 months, I had pretty much already done that.
Yeah.
So it's easier to recorrect on short goals than it is to, you know, if you say a goal like I'm going to make $1 million in my first year, it sounds good, it sounds ambitious, but it's so far beyond. You got to set reasonable goals, I guess, but you got to leave yourself opportunity to outgrow them.
Yeah, for sure. And what made you consider purchasing a multifamily? Because, you know, you had the 8 houses and then all of a sudden you got, I think you said a 24 unit. What was that shift all about? Well,
I don't want to ruffle any, well, I do like to ruffle feathers. Look, single family doesn't scale. Single family doesn't scale. You can't, how many people do you know that have 100 single family houses when you could just go buy, it's much easier to just go buy a 100 unit apartment. So again, my original goal was 10 in 10 years. By the time I hit 6, I realized I'm basically doing one at a time. And I think about that in terms of transactions. I'm doing one transaction at a time and I'm only getting 1 unit. Well, now I did 1 transaction. I got 24 units. So the economies of scale for the transactional return on effort is high. And then there's all sorts of, you know, I don't know if you want to get into the details, but there's all sorts of details on why there's economies of scale in things like property management, in legal costs, in the amount of money you can get from people to invest in a bigger deal because of the stability that comes with a 50 unit rather than a single house. So it's a natural progression of ambition. I think everybody who does this long enough is going to switch from single family to multifamily, or they should.
Yeah. And I think it's really common for people to start out investing in single family homes because that's a product that people come across, you know, every day. Like most people will either own or rent a house.
You know, before I got into rentals, everybody told me how risky it was because, you know, XYZ can go wrong. And what I realized, and I'm in lending, so I understand the bank side and I work in underwriting specifically, so risk mitigation. And I'll tell you what, buying a 30-year fixed rate mortgage with Fannie Mae on a single family home is like one of the least risky possible endeavors you can do. And you can tell this because just ask yourself this, is there anything else that the government will back a loan on that you can pay back over 30 years at 4% interest with almost nothing down? There's no other product in the world that will come to that kind of financing that the bank will give that money up and say, yeah, you can give me $500 a month on a $60,000 loan for 30 years. They're going to like, there's no way that there's no other product in the world that can do that because there's no other product that's as safe as a home. And that does translate to commercial properties and whatnot. But a home, it's actually a little bit less risky because you only need one. It works in reverse. You only need one warm body to make the payment.
Yeah, for sure. And where we are at right now, 4%, that's basically free money that you're locking in for 30 years.
Yeah, that's a part of a larger topic, but generally I agree. I mean, I think I paid a little bit higher. I paid much higher than that in my last deal, but again, it gets complicated why you'd want to take higher rates for less points. But yeah, 4 or 5%, it's as cheap as it's going to get. I think you're going to see a weird transition of how interest rates go over the next few years. I thought they'd go higher. The higher they go, the more delta you make in the locking in the low rates. But yeah, 4 or 5% to your original point, 4 or 5%. It's like, dude, how much less risk can you possibly get?
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say is your number one obstacle or challenge right now in your business?
Deals are hard to find.
Yeah.
And I say that like that's the biggest problem by a little bit, right? There's other problems like I'm impatient. Yeah. That's a real big problem because if you look at my timeline, like I said, 3 years, 32 units, somebody out there's listening is going to say, man, that's a lot. But when you live it day to day, it doesn't feel that fast. I'm always bored. So boredom control is a big problem in real estate. And that sounds, it doesn't sound like it'd be that much of a problem, but that's one of them. Finding deals, working on exposure. Same reason why I assume you're doing this podcast, because the more people that know you and know what you're doing, and if you put your content out there with authenticity and transparency and legitimacy, more people will contact you to do deals together. But that social exposure takes time to compound as well. I don't care if you're, nobody becomes YouTube famous year one or podcast famous year one. So a lot of it is just patience, which is that's my weakest point.
Hey, I can totally relate. I wish everything was done yesterday. I'm the same way.
I think this is a very common problem with people in that, they have big ambitions and they have good work ethic, but they don't have patience and they don't have the will to go in every day and do a little bit. And I'm fortunate that I found, I've been recreationally powerlifting in the gym for 15 years. And nobody gets to a 600-pound deadlift in year one. So it forces you to be like, okay, I got to go in there and grind out my 5-pound PR for the month after month, year after year, until you can put some actual substance together. So I apply that same logic to, my content production and my real estate. It's like, dude, I'm just getting started. Yeah. Always.
Totally random question. What attracted you to powerlifting?
Well, I was in the Army, and so it's like, look, you can go run or you can go to the gym. Well, I'm going to the gym. And I don't want to say I don't like superficiality, but it's like, if you are competing with the next guy, do you want to compete with who looks better? Because that's very subjective, and it comes with fragile egos. So for me, it's like, I'm much more on the objective basis of who's better. Well, we're going to go pick up weights, each of us, and one of us is going to win for certain. Yeah. One of us is there's not going to be any objectivity about who looks better or whatever the day. It's like, nah, dog, I picked up more. I win. Game over.
Yeah. You don't have to go in and get the spray tan before you lift.
No, I like to know. I like the pragmatism of powerlifting.
Yeah. Nice. No. And that totally makes sense. And besides powerlifting, like, have you developed any routines or rituals that have helped make you successful thus far?
Oof. Do it every day. That sounds so simple. But for quite a few years now, as my talent, my interests have changed, I usually keep a list of 4 or 5 things. And it's like, if you want to get good, you find 4 or 5 things you want to get good at, and then you do each one of them a little bit every day. So I read every day. I go to the gym, not every day, but 3 times a week now. Yeah. I used to go more. Real estate, I work on it every single day. I write my blog a little bit every day. Podcasting a little bit every day. YouTube, whatever it is. It's like, you don't have to do it all today, but you have to do a little bit every single day. Yeah. I call it the way I explain this is education and networking. So every day I work on learning something new, and every day I work on speaking to somebody new in my areas of interest.
Yeah. And it's just like what you alluded to before. Nobody becomes a star or a success overnight. It's like the overnight success that took you 30 years to get there.
You learned about it overnight. He worked.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's so common though. And that's the big hang up people get. And I think, if you mind, can I go on a tangent?
Oh yeah, go for it.
maybe this will relate to people. So I think the way our society is set up, to take a really broad stab at this, everything in our society is conditioned you to go to school and then go get a job from someone else. And the way that job process works is you go and you apply or whatever the case may be is, and then you negotiate your salary or your income before you do a lick of work. So you're going to tell somebody that you're worth X, and they have to believe you, kind of. And they don't really believe you, so they're going to pay you as little as they possibly can to get you to come on board. But the point is, before you've done a lick of work, they already know what you're going to get paid. And so if it's not enough, you're going to say no. And so investing is the opposite. And when I say investing, I mean in everything, whether it's real estate or yourself or content production. You have to put all the work in first with no promise of repayment. And then you have to, believe in yourself and your ability and your commitment that you'll get paid in the long run. And it works almost always. But people will not do that. And I believe that's a big cause because our society is set up to say, don't do a lick of work till you know what you're going to get paid. Where the correct response should be, do all the work you can possibly do for everybody for free and make everybody else money, and then know that the universe is going to repay you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that reminds me of, I started off selling real estate, and that is 100% commission based. So, you don't produce, there is no money.
That's a good way to live. That's how the world actually works. That's how capitalism actually works. That's how society has always worked. We live in such a modern world that we've kind of, we just have, this country has so much money that people can be picky about how much they want to make and all that stuff. And that's a really good thing. But when people try to become entrepreneurs, they've been conditioned to this mentality. And it's like, dude, you got to give all that up, and you have to be much more selfless to be an entrepreneur, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you got to put a lot of dues in. I make way more money for other people than I do for myself. Right. And it's like, look, my whole goal is to make everybody else rich and then ride their coattails on the way after they get somewhere.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good plan. But eventually that will flip back around, and the money will come, right?
100%. I have no doubts. But you have to believe it.
Yeah.
You can't just say it. You got to believe it.
Yeah. So, so talking about mindset and all that stuff, what do you have to change about how you think about real estate and business in order to take your business to the next level?
That's a good question. Most of the time, you're around the wrong people. Most of the time, you got to change your people. Yeah. Second, you got to get out of watching TV and doing unproductive hobbies, nonsense. And you have to do hobbies that have some level of return on investment. And I am not a fan of telling people to read self-help or business books, but reading nonfiction, history, culture, science, religion, nonfiction, all this stuff, like give up the Netflix and put time into the books. Give up drinking at the gym and go to the gym instead. And so change your people and change your habits. What's the old saying? Like, if you want to be a millionaire, act like one.
Yeah.
Like the millionaires, I'm telling you, if you're competing with me, I'm not sitting around on Sundays watching Netflix. Guarantee it. Yeah. I'm working. Yeah. So, and I'm lazy and average, and I still outwork people. So if you want to really be a superstar, you at least have to beat me.
Well, you can put on the little bunny ears like they do in marathons, and people can try and catch you.
Yeah. What's that? A close carrot?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Like, so, when I say change your people, like, this is a really in-depth, that's a deep topic, but people aren't changing. Your friends aren't changing with you. You're changing. So you want to change, but they're not changing. How can you outgrow them and see them every day?
Yeah.
You gotta, that's the hardest one for people.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with most, right?
The average.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The average. Yeah.
Jim Rohn. Yeah. That is such a quintessential quote. I say that all the time, and it's so true. And actually, it's never been easier with the internet. Like, dude, just turn your Facebook feed off from all the idiots, and then go grab a bunch of smart people and listen to them. The other thing I do, I like that I go on to people who are really smart and successful, and then I go on their website, and almost always they have book lists, and then I read the books that they're learning from. Bill Gates is a really good one. Yeah. And it's like, dude, don't read. Just stop listening to knuckleheads. Start getting around smart people, get inundated. My Facebook feed changes every, call it 8 months, with all new people, because as I grow, I have to dump my old friends and get new influences. And it's, it's hard at first, but it's incredibly useful.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's jump over to a Keystone deal. So a deal that made a big impact on you and your business.
Okay. So I got a few that
Okay.
I could talk about, but let's do this one. So my first house hack, I had bought a house in 2010, terrible deal. I'm the only idiot in 2010 at the bottom of the market who bought a house that has since gone down in value. I don't know how that's possible, but well, I'm a knucklehead too. So I was living in this house 2010, and then 2014 comes around, and this is when I started getting my stuff together. I said, I got to get out of this rat race. I got to figure something out. Without going to the nitty gritty, but I found out about real estate. So I started looking around my town, and I said, here's a foreclosure. It was $54,000. It was, I don't know, 1,800 square foot. It's 2014, so it's not the same as it was today for sure, but it's not that different. The interesting thing about this deal was we were able to move in, even though it was a foreclosure, with an FHA loan. So 3.5% down on 50 grand is like, I don't know, nothing, $3,000. Yeah. So I think I moved in. I think I paid over because I was still really afraid of debt at the time. So I paid over. I financed $50,000 or something, or 51 grand. And I lived in the house, and it was a little ugly, but I knew, I was like, look, we're going to go in there. We went to Lowe's and bought, $1,000 worth of set down, laminate wood. We did it ourselves. We did a little bit of paint here and there. I put a fence in the backyard. I think I spent $5,000 plus, sweat equity. And just under 18 months later, I went to a buddy and I said, hey, I think that house is worth something now. Let me refinance and pull some cash out, and I want to go do this again. So they appraised the house, and it came in at 115. Now, these aren't like super life-changing numbers in and of itself, but for a guy like me who's broke my whole life, right? Who just now started to get out of the red. When I first started learning about personal finance, I had like $40,000 in credit card debt. It was a terrible situation. So for 3 years later, for me to be like, dude, I made 60 grand in equity almost by accident. So I only took out 20 grand, but then like a year and a half later, I bought my first rental. But I still have that house that now rents for $900. My mortgage is like $550.
Nice.
A lot of it was luck because it was 2014. But at the time I knew, I was like, dude, I came in, I bought this house, they financed it for me. And then a year later, they financed it at this other number just because of the market. And I learned, I was like, you don't even have to be that good. You just have to know what's going on. So I started learning markets. I started learning trends, and I started learning finance. I ended up going to school for finance and then going into banking. And that really opened my eyes to like, any idiot can do it, and I'm proof.
Yeah. And what inspired you, because you mentioned, you had the credit card debt. What inspired you to actually purchase that first house? Did you read a book? Were you talking with somebody?
The foreclosure?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was making the same decisions that most people make. Fancy car, fancy clothes, living week to week with a job I hated. And so I finally was like, I got to get out of this. And I found a website called Get Rich Slowly, run by a guy named JD Roth, who I've since met. And he's a fantastic human being.
Yeah.
And I said, man, this is, I don't need a get rich quick scheme. I just needed to start making good decisions. And that's part of the reason why my website's called Broke as a Choice, because I was broke because of my choices.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got out all that stuff, and then, you start learning about personal finance and the FIRE community and all this stuff, but they don't know how to invest. Not really. They don't know how to give you freedom. They just know how to make you save for retirement fast, which I'm not into that. I needed something else. So I said, what can I do that, I didn't want to go to work every day. I didn't want to create another job for myself. So it has to be mostly passive. I didn't have a service or a piece of inventory to sell to people. And I wanted it to be tried and true. I didn't want to find something that was like, Bitcoin, maybe it'll work out, or whatever the case may be. So it had to be tried and true. It had to be low risk. I had to be able to use leverage because I didn't have that much money. And it had to be passive. Real estate, baby. Can you believe this works? And so it's like, you need 3 or 4 of these, and you get $500, $600 a month passive. That opens up so many doors for you when you hate your job. You're like, you know what? I got $600 a month. It's not enough, but at least it can give me some breathing room. And I was saving more. So that's really where it started. Was I stumbled across personal finance, and then I stumbled across real estate. At the time, it was 2014, 13. It was really, you could buy depressed houses. You still can. Now, people are getting into it now. They think the heyday's over, but we are in the mix, baby. Like, now is a good time to buy. Yeah. You got to work a little bit harder to find good deals now, but So for me, it was like, I wanted freedom. I wanted to do it easily. I wanted to do it cheaply. And I wanted to do it with relatively low risk. And I was willing to, live in dumpy houses or take on the debt to do so.
Yeah. And, like most people, I get questions all the time. You probably get the same questions. People come to you, hey, how can I get started? 2, 3, 4 years later, they still haven't done anything, right?
Yeah. If that's the case, my initial guess is that that person spent 3 or 4 years not working that hard to do it. They can see you 3 years later and say, I've been trying, but they didn't work on it. Like I just said, they didn't work on it every day. Here's the thing. Here's what I do. And I did a post about this on Bigger Pockets the other day. It's like, go find somebody with 3,000 posts on Bigger Pockets and tell me they have no real estate. It doesn't happen. Yeah. Go on there every day and spend time talking to people and meeting people. If you go to Urea meet every month for 3 years and you still don't have a house, there's no way. I don't believe that happens.
Yeah.
So, people can tell me, they can tell you what they've done, but their actions speak differently. If you commit to this, if you immerse yourself, if all your friends are into real estate, if all the, hobbies you do are geared towards buying real estate, it's like obsession. Obsession will get you to where you want to go. It's not that hard. So if it's not that hard to do this. Yeah. So if you spend time on it every day, it's inevitable. How many offers do you put in every day that you couldn't get one in 3 years?
Yeah. No, 100%.
People lie. That would be my option. If you tell me you've been doing it for 3 years and you don't have anything, then I'm telling you you're a liar.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I try and phrase it a little bit nicer, but maybe I should switch and just say it like it is.
Well, look, I don't know how much you know about me. That is not my truth. Truth is my strong suit, not nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Love, baby.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you, as your portfolio grew, because now you're at 8 single family homes, most people encounter some challenges in terms of getting the debt as they acquire more properties. How did you power through that and not let it hold you back?
Well, there's no real problem getting up to 10. 10, you start getting to weird problems. And it's another reason why I say go to multifamily, because the banks don't want you to have more than 10 loans. So heed their advice, go do something else. But to get to 10, it's not that hard. What people sometimes have problems with, first, I buy super discounted properties that cash flow well. So if you're buying deals that are tight, then your DTI is not going to increase with the debt service. So for me, my deals, I'm getting easier and easier to finance because my cash is increasing. Also, you got to be a little, make sure your tax returns make sure the deals are running right. Make sure you're claiming everything on your taxes so you can show it as income. Yeah. So here's a really interesting tip that you'll never hear anywhere else. Every year before I submit my taxes, I have my CPA do them and they send them to me. And before I sign off them, I send them to my lender and say, how is this going to be? How are my taxes how my Schedule E look so that I can buy more houses this year? And then he signs off on it to make sure that I'm not writing off too much, that it's going to hinder my lending. Then I send it back to the CPA. CPA don't like that, but.
Yeah. Hey, I did I've paid way more tax than I've had to in the past just to make sure I can make the next acquisition. Cause more tax is a short-term issue, but I would rather have that asset, right?
Yeah. If you save the 25% you're going to save by writing off too much, but then your lending ability goes to zero, dude, 25% of whatever you're going to pay on your tax liability is nothing compared to having to stop. Yeah. I think when you get more loans, I don't think that you should, it should not hinder if it's hindering your lending ability, then it may be a specific person's problem. Like their situation may be something specific, but my guess is if you're buying deals that are cash flow positive, truly not, hey, the rent's $800 and the mortgage is $500, so we should be good. It's like, that's not how it works. What's it look like on the Schedule E? So as long as your taxable income is going up, you're making actual money on your rentals, then it should be easier to get debt, not harder. Yeah. You will probably have to pay higher rates as you go up. Like my rates go up a little bit, like 8 of them. Come on, dude, you're going to pay another 20 basis points, whatever the case may be. But that's minimum. Again, my house mortgages are all 60, 68, 65 grand. So
yeah, and it's the cost of doing business, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned book lists and always keeping track of what other people are reading. What are some of the good books you've read lately?
Dude, you're going to open up a can of worms. I'm on book 37 for the year.
Wow.
And I read books that I read books that nobody else in our peer group is reading. I don't read any business. I don't read any real estate. I read philosophy, and I read a lot of like sociology type books. If you want to read about risk and uncertainty, there's a 5-book series by Nassim Taleb called Incerto. He wrote, one of them is the famous book called The Black Swan from 2007, where he predicted the 2008 collapse. Another one in that series is called Anti-Fragile, another famous book. I talk about these all the time. They're brilliant. They're dense, but they are really good for understanding risk and uncertainty. Trying to think of what else I've read that's applicable here. I don't know. I keep a really long list on my website, but there's nothing on there. I'm reading The Fatal Conceit, Errors of Socialism right now. It's a philosophy book from the 70s. So dense reads, but nothing, unfortunately, that I can tell you to read that'd be like, oh, this is how to do. If you want to learn real estate, I tell you, go meet people that have done it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you want to learn economics, you can get books, but
yeah. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just figured I'd ask.
You don't put me on the spot. It's like, it's just a hard question because I know the answer that most people are asking for. And the answers I always have to give are like, I read philosophy and history.
Oh, yeah.
It's really useful for investing, but it's so hard to explain why.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm a big fan of historical biographies that are like, 1,500 pages long. So, you need the big, thick ones.
Yeah. History is like, here's how I explain it. If you want to know what's going to come up, what's going to happen in the future, that's really important to know for investing. If you want to know what's going to happen in the future, you got to know how we got here.
Yeah. So
people have very little historical understanding. Everything I learned in history is from high school usually. And high school is really bad about teaching history. In fact, I just read a book about it called Lies My Teacher Told Me. Mm-hmm. But if you understand history, you can understand the future because once you understand how people are going to behave, then understanding the market becomes really, really easy.
Yeah, well, 100%. Well, let's change gears and talk about how real estate has impacted your life. Because you mentioned you had the credit card debt, then you did that first deal, got some equity. How else has it impacted you?
I spent the first 30 years of my life beholden to economic systems that I really didn't design. You kind of go off there and you got a jobby job, and the next thing you know, you buy a car payment, and now you have to make the car payment. Mm-hmm. So you're at beholden to whatever system, whatever you've become a wage slave essentially many times. So you can't quit. You may not have the talent or whatever if you don't have a high income job. So for me, real estate has given me freedom in ways more than just I work now because I want to. Right. And it also has given me a lot of freedom. I got an attitude problem. Well, now I can say whatever I want because I'm beholden to nobody. And that's a powerful feeling. I know it sounds like I'm just being a jackass, but really it's like, dude, I answer to nobody and I'm completely self-sufficient because I have this passive income. And I have a lot of people that help me, and I don't dissuade my team or anything like that, but I'm not beholden to them. Mm-hmm. So freedom in more ways than just economic, social freedom. Yeah. And the other thing it's given me is I don't stress about nothing, right? That's an intangible benefit that's hard to quantify. But I'll tell you what, 30 years I stressed about money, and then it took me about 4 to go, I don't stress about money at all anymore. Yeah. And then that's a worthwhile endeavor for 4 years. So if you're stressed about money or some situation in your life that you don't want, it's like, dude, just go do this, commit for a few years, grind it out, suck it up, make some sacrifice, and then boom, you got freedom like you wouldn't believe. Then you can, that's why I can talk so much smack.
I like it. So looking ahead, let's say 10 years from now, in a decade, where will you be with your business? Because I know you said you might be doing something different.
I'm going to tell you that whatever I'm going to guess, and then I guarantee in 10 years, I'll surpass whatever I guess right now. Over the next 3 years, I'm going to try to buy 3 or 4 more multifamilies at least. I want to get to where I can start buying. I want to get to at least where I can buy 150 unit at a time, just for ego purposes. I'm going to really ramp up on podcasting and my blog and YouTube. So what's the old saying? You underestimate what you can do. How does it go? You overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in 10 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of thing. So my guess is I'll have all the real estate money I need in 10 years. And I'm hoping to get into, at least not give up real estate, but maybe get into some other endeavors as well. Marijuana is blowing up. I don't know if you heard. That's the one to get in if you can get. You're probably behind the curve though. It's really expensive. I would like to open up some kind of service or sales business of some sort. I don't know. Something that I can generate more cash flow. Real estate is really good, but it's kind of a fixed income, fixed expense business. So it's not like, I can work harder to sell more and your growth potential is unlimited. It's like once you buy the property, the rents are the rents. You can go up. Hell, if you can go up 20%, you're good, but you can't go up infinite percent. Yeah. So I'd like to find a business where I can work on the sales side and, have the optionality to go way, way higher.
Yeah.
I'd really like to, honestly, I don't have that many expensive hobbies. I like photography and the gym and reading, all cheap. So I would really like in 10 years to have made a few millionaires of other people by then. That'll be good. I know there's abstract goals. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Hey, no. This is perfect. This is the type of stuff I really want to know.
Yeah. So I don't think about that much because what I found is the more goals it sounds so weird. Goal setting is really important, but it can be hindering. Like we talked about very early in the show. It's like, if you set them too tight, then you hamstring yourself by trying to focus on things. So I try to keep a little bit of optionality and say, I want to have these abstract goals because what I'm going to do is all the things I just told you about, I'm going to work on every single day. So you just never know when the right phone call comes along. It's like, you wanted to buy a 24 unit this year. Well, this guy just brought you a 50 unit and helped you close it because he likes you or whatever the case may be. It sounds weird, but those kind of things happen.
Yeah.
And so if I say if I had, hamstrung myself with goals, and you can't get there. So every day I'm going to work to meet somebody new. Every day I'm going to work on my content. Every day I'm going to work to learn more. Every day I'm going to work to help somebody else make money. And my guess is these things are going to compound way beyond anything I could tell you in 10 years.
Yeah. No,
I'm hoping, most importantly, if I still have this great hair in 10 years, everything's a win.
Yeah. But unfortunately for me, it keeps going back a little bit more every year.
That's why I'm working so hard on mine, baby. So you can live vicariously through mine.
That's right. You know what? You need a fan in front of you so it blows in the wind a little bit. There you go.
Okay, first, I'm totally going to do that. You've created a monster now.
Yeah, well, we'll call you Alex Fabio Felice. We'll throw Fabio in there.
I like that.
Yeah, nice. No, Alex, this has been awesome. So if somebody's looking to get in touch, learn more about what you're doing, visit your blog, where can they find you?
Brokeasachoice.com. Brokeasachoice.com. I have a podcast. It's small. It's new. It's not as professional as yours, but I'm working on it. So there's a few episodes that you can check out. If you want to video chat me, I do free video chats on Thursday nights. You can schedule that on the website. I'm very active on Bigger Pockets. I'm a moderator there, in fact, and I write for them. And I was on their episode 301. I'm going to both FinCon and Bigger Pockets conference, and I'm going to Best Ever in Denver in February. So if you want to meet me in person, those are options as well.
Nice. No, that sounds good. I mean, and I encourage everybody to get on the video chats if they're listening to audio only, so they can actually see your hair.
I recommend that as well.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, Alex, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, man. This is a great show. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.